Security is extremely tight in the Democratic Republic of Congo as the African nation prepares to release its election results. At any moment, Congolese citizens are preparing to take to the streets in protest. And just moments ago, the U.S. alerted Americans in the country to leave. All this is unfolding as U.S. military personnel are standing by and positioned to intervene should violence break out. RT's Dan Cohen is live for us in the newsroom with more to the story. Dan?
Well, Manila, voters went to the polls on December 30th, and the results were supposed to have been announced on January 6th, but multiple delays have fueled widespread doubt about the election's very integrity.
If the proclaimed results are not lawful, we will release our own figures already known by the Election Commission and international observers, African observers, local observers, the Catholic and Protestant churches, and above all, the Congolese people, especially the Congolese people. The people will not accept manipulated results.
Now, the incumbent Joseph Kabila was supposed to leave office 2 years ago, but he's held on to power with the backing of the United States. Pro-democracy protesters have taken to the streets as their frustration boils over.
The postponement of the results of the elections disgusts us. Seeing an entity such as the Congolese Independent Electoral Commission, which had provided a clear date, is now changing that.
If the government's candidate, unfortunately, is proclaimed the winner by the commission, that would mean a third world war that would start in Congo because we are fed up with this regime.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo is a large Central African nation of 85 million people. The country continues to suffer from the effects of colonial rule and exploitation. About 5 million Congolese have died of hunger, disease, and violence since 1998. The current president, Joseph Kabila, has taken $100 million in bribes from American hedge funds in exchange for access to the country's deposits of cobalt, copper, and diamonds. The government also barred 1 million Congolese from voting in the current election and blamed it on an Ebola outbreak. Now, as the pressure builds from pro-democracy protesters, the government has deployed riot police. U.S. President Donald Trump has sent 80 troops to the nearby country of Gabon and said he may send more. The DRC's former colonial master of Belgium has also threatened to enact sanctions over the delay in releasing the election's results. But with Congolese voters and protesters frustrated with the status quo, it may be that even deadly force won't convince them to accept the government's claims about who really won the election. Reporting from the newsroom, Dan Cohen, RT.
And for more on this developing story and America's interest in the African country, I'm being joined now by Maurice Carney. He's co-founder and executive director of the Friends of the Congo. Mr. Carney, thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
So the Congolese people are anxiously awaiting these election results after tallying has taken much longer than expected. There are three main presidential candidates who topped the polls, each of them expecting a win. When the results are tallied, will the victor be legitimate?
Well, that's the big question. As we've seen, the Congolese government under the Kabila regime has been bent on holding on to power. So it's highly likely that the Electoral Commission, which is anything but independent, will name the victor, Emmanuel Ramazani Shadari, who is the representative of the regime's, the Kabila regime's party and coalition.
And riot police have been camped out, though, all night in front of the Election Commission headquarters ahead of the results. Is it possible to have a peaceful transfer of power, given that this is the first democratic election in the country's 59-year independence?
Well, first of all, let me say that it's often said in the media that this will be the first peaceful transfer of power in the Congo. But what is left out almost every time is the fact that the first democratically elected prime minister, Patrice Emery Lumumba, he was overthrown by the CIA, the United States. So it was the United States that cast the die in terms of violent overthrow and the dismantling of democratic institutions in the Congo, not unlike Mossadegh in Iran or even Allende in Chile. Lumumba falls in that category. So it's a role the United States has played in overthrowing a democratically elected leader in 1960, installing and maintaining dictatorship for over 3 decades in Joseph Mobutu. And then when democratic forces rose up in the early 1990s to remove Mobutu, the U.S. then intervened and backed a war of aggression by Rwanda and Uganda. So what we see today with U.S. troops going into Gabon is not dissimilar from the late 1990s, where the United States was dissatisfied with its agent, as they're dissatisfied with Kabila now, and they may very well use some violent means to get rid of him if necessary.
So obviously the U.S. has a history of interfering with politics there. So what are your thoughts then on the rumored suspicions that a power sharing deal has been brokered between Felix Tshisekedi? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. And
Felix
the opposition
candidate. He represents the Union for Democracy and Social Progress. And what we've seen in Congo, because the institutions have been eviscerated over the years, political or political parties with an ideological base are non-existent. So there's a lot of trading where you'd be in the opposition one day and then you're with the ruling party the next day. But what is clear as a result of these elections is that the Congolese people want change. They voted for change. And Shadari, the candidate for the majority coalition, does not represent change. And we've seen of late where Congolese people are at a certain heightened consciousness, where if they do not get, if the vote is not, the results do not represent the votes that were cast, we're almost certain to see some kind of popular uprising or explosion take place. But the key concern is for the candidate that's announced as the winner to actually represent the will and the vote of the Congolese people.
Now, the election's been put off for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Do you believe that there are outside reasons or influences that have delayed the elections and now are delaying the results? Given, especially for viewers that aren't aware of this, that the Congo is very rich in something called tantalum. It's a mineral used in cell phones, DVD players, laptops, hard drives, gaming devices, very rich in resources.
Yes.
Are there outside sources playing a role?
Without a doubt. Congo certainly has internal challenges in terms of weak institutions, but it also has external challenges in terms of multinational corporations, foreign governments, even multilateral institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, all wanting to get to the spectacular wealth that's found in the Congo. And of late, we've seen that one key mineral called cobalt. And cobalt is vital to batteries in our iPhones and other electronic devices, iPads, you name it. But also, it's vital to the functioning of the electronic vehicle. In order for the electronic cars to function, they need cobalt from the Congo. And if you add up all of the countries in the world that produce cobalt, they do not equal the amount of cobalt that Congo produces.
Wow.
Up to 60% of the world's production of cobalt comes out of the Congo. So you find these major corporations like Glencore, major magnates like Dan Gertler from Israel, who's engaged in the Congo and benefiting from Congo's riches. Even Eric Prince of Blackwater. He just
a name we know here.
Financial Times just published a report saying that he's raising $500 million in order to invest in cobalt in the Congo. So you have a coterie of players who are scrambling for the wealth, and they scramble for that wealth at the expense of the Congolese people, where profit is a key concern and not the concern of the people.
Glad you mentioned that. Real briefly, though, a 2014 U.S. law within the Dodd-Frank Act requires American companies disclose any use of these so-called conflict minerals.
Yes.
Because the countries that have them seem to earn money from selling them and propping up their own regimes or inflicting violence on their own people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, that just scratches the surface in terms of conflict minerals. The Congolese people living in poverty, that's a form of violence, that's a form of conflict. What's at stake is who's going to control those resources and for whose benefit. So conflict minerals is a distraction. What we need to talk about is resource sovereignty. The Congolese people are going to own and benefit from their own resources, or are we just going to set up a regime, a system, whereby you monitor how minerals are getting out of the Congo? That conflict minerals approach only it's a monitoring system. So that means the people continue to be exploited. That means the environment continues to be degraded. That means the Congolese people do not benefit from the resources. So the key question is resource sovereignty, and that's been the central question around the Congo for decades.
The first step in doing this, I guess, is seeing what the election results will be, and we'd love to have you back to talk more about this when they come in. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.